Hey everybody, this is DM Mike, and this is the next campaign diary in Hoard of the Dragon Queen. We have officially finished Chapter 6, and boy did we hit a crescendo. Hey everybody, welcome back and thanks for joining me and keeping up with the Hoard of the Dragon Queen campaign diaries. Have been going on since I think June of last year, 2018. That is a long time. But anyway, here we are. We have finally crescendoed. We have finally hit the end of Chapter 6. Chapter 6, I don't know if you're playing this or if you're planning on playing it. I can tell you, look, the swamp took us months, real time, months to get through random encounters, through player decision, from trekking from point A to point B, and finally getting to the castle was a long time. I want to say at least maybe the end of November of last year, maybe. So November, December, January, February, March. And we just finished like last Friday or Friday before. I can't remember now. I'm losing track of all these things. And so that was a long time. That was a really long time. Now I've put on my channel some Chapter 6 tips. Part 1 and Part 2 are up. My Part 2 concerning the castle is a little slim. Quote Ross, even though it's more about volume.
Fellas?
It's a little slim, only because my characters made different decisions, so I didn't have a lot to give as far as how to run that castle crawl. But we started in the castle. The campaign diary previously, they had just stepped foot into the castle. They continued, of course, going through, and not a lot happened there. And the reason why their castle crawl was fairly easy was because of the events that were happening outside the castle, with the kind of civil war, if you will, between the different Lizardfolk clans and also the Bullywugs, and the assault on the castle by Snapjaw. A deal had been made far back in the campaign when they visited Snapjaw's camp. They went on their own quest to the Undead Sanctuary and blah, blah, blah. That really helped them. It benefited them when they went inside the castle, because once they got in, the castle crawl was cake. So they were able to walk around almost really completely unchallenged. There was a couple things in there they could have hit, but for the most part, they took out single bullywugs at a time. I left 10, maybe 8 to 10 in the main foyer in the castle, but they actually one by one were exiting because they're going out to the battlefield to help out. But they managed to wipe out 1 or 2 or 3, I think at the most, kind of, using, I think it was thaumaturgy and everything, like to bring them over to a secluded room and, Sam Fisher them. So they did a lot of that, and they overheard a conversation in which talked about where Spattergoo was and how he was down below the castle. So they knew they were eavesdropping on all this, right? So they got some bits of information, and they went down into the cavern. Now, before we get to that, the truth of the matter is they didn't spend much time looking around the castle. They got some gold. They found the treasury room. They found a potion in there, like it's like a bonus, like it's a bigger health potion, greater health potion. Is that the term? But they found that and a couple coins and whatnot. But to be honest with you, a lot of stuff was missed. There was a lot of things missed in that castle. There's a lot of magical items that were in there, scattered about the rooms. But to no fault of their own, though, I think, and this is not a critique, this is not something negative, but I think when I look back on this Cricket story, the Fae here that was captured way back in Chapter 2, it's finally been rescued. But I think a little bit of her story overshadowed a lot of the events. I think it overshadowed kind of why they were there and the point of all this. Not that it kind of got pushed to the background, this whole investigation of the cult, I think, and that's not a negative thing. Characters in the game made decisions and choices. And I think, and like as a DM, I never started out this campaign plucking Cricket, this NPC that I created really for Althea's character. I never thought she would have such a prominent role in the campaign. It was never supposed to be that way. Maybe in the future, maybe something would have happened, but the Fae really kind of overshadowed a lot of things, and that may have been a detriment to me, maybe a detriment to the players. I don't know, but I am kind of a DM who just lets the game unfold the way it's going to go. It may go off the rails, and that's fine. It definitely has over the past couple months. But it's kind of striking to me as I look back on it, the role Althea and the role of the Fae Cricket and how much actually fairies have been a part of this story. Like there's another one, Anodyne, who came out of the Fey Wilds to look for Cricket because she could feel and knew she was in trouble. Just all this stuff just kind of crescendoed in a way I never ever planned on. Never, all the way back to June. Never, it was not even, it didn't cross my mind whatsoever. But anyway, so they got that information and they went down to the cavern. Now the cavern is big, right? You look on the map, I put something up, it's big, it's got a lot of stuff. Well, I cut out 98% of it. Really did. And I got it down to one room. I'll put a map up here. This is the tabletop simulator map. You can see the entire build in real time, not real time, that would be boring, time lapse with some commentary on how I built it, how I put it together, including the sketches and different things I did for it. But I distilled it down into this single room, and this was our night. 4 hours, 3.5, maybe 3 hours of which was combat. That first hour was just skulking around the castle, getting some information, going down. And it was a big crescendo night. We haven't had a crescendo night like this, like a climax in the story, where it almost feels like the story's done. We could just pack up and go. Of course, there's the cult and all kinds of things, but it had that feeling. It was just so much. There was such anticipation. It was almost like Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, when they're trying to get to Helm's Deep. All this buildup is supposed to happen, and then you have this huge fight at the end. And it's kind of what it felt like. We're not defending a castle, of course, or a stronghold, but they were down there and they were after Cricket. They finally got eyes on her in the on the table, well, in the map, right, in that encounter. And it was pretty brutal. Now, here's the thing. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it wasn't. This is how I played my NPCs. But down there in the portal were 10 bullywugs, a little bit stronger than the other bullywugs. They had higher hit points and whatnot, so they could take a little more of a beating. Spattergoo or Splattergoo, I don't think there's an L in there. Maybe it's just Spattergoo. Had all his powers ready to go. And of course, Rezimir was also down there. And this is not part of the campaign, like part of the Horde Giant Queen storyline, but I had the actual portal break down, like something happened. Now there's a reason for it. There actually is a reason why that portal broke down. I don't want to give it away here. Maybe I'll do it in the story later, but there's a reason for that. And so they had to respark the portal. They had to get, they have all these goods to take from point A to point B. They need to do this. So they used the Fae. They drained her of energy, and they kind of connected her to the portal to steal her arcana to bring life back. So they were killing her and bringing life to the portal. And so this is the scene the players saw when they got down to that floor, and the door opened. Now these doors were huge, like the size of King Kong, like King Kong doors, like Jurassic Park maybe, like when they go in on the ride and it's really, really big. Well, they were huge, and they walk in. They're walking on a black obsidian bridge, and they come out there and they see the situation. And what it did for the players is that Althea freaked out. Althea went into a rage, and at that moment, her character took on a dual class. She went to Druid to Barbarian, I believe, and raged right there because she saw Cricket. She saw the situation that she was in, near death, and all the heavies sitting right there, right? So it was a big deal. So she ended up raging on the battlefield, turning into a huge bear, and just ripping some toads apart. Kermit had a really bad day that day.
Well, one man's poison is another man's bacon.
Barbarian?
But everybody else really got involved, and it's hard to recap a battle. For the most part, it was pretty brutal. Everything that happened on this stone. I wish I would have captured it through some gameplay capture on my card, but I totally forgot to hit record. But I did record the podcast. That's one thing. It was tough. Here's the thing that killed me. It didn't kill me. It was just like, oh no, was Rezimir died. Rezimir died on the platform. Right now, everybody's fighting. They finally free Cricket from the crystal. Matter of fact, the thief, Thembraeus, actually ran up there and was attempting over and over again to burst this crystal ball that the Fae was captured in, and all the power is being drained out of her. He used his gun. He actually has a pistol. Long story, but he's got a pistol. He used all kinds of devices, and finally it did break. They did break that, but right when they broke the jewel, Rezimir fell. Cricket was released from her glass prison and lost control, and everybody teleported, and that was the end of the night. We stopped and crescendoed right there. So nobody knows where they're at. Now that was a quick recap, right? There was a whole bunch that happened in that battle. You don't need to hear all that, but it was tough, and it was shocking to me as a DM because then I thought, God, did I make a mistake by having Resimir and Spattergoo there? And then I've lost two heavies, like pretty big time guys, at least for Resimir. Spattergoo I could care less about, but definitely Resimir. But you know what? That's the way the story unfolded. I'm sure other people have ran it different ways, and Resimir escaped, or Resimir survived all the way to Chapter 8, maybe all the way into Rise of Tiamat. I don't know. But for me, whether it was a mistake or not, that is the way the story unfolded. So it did stump me that night when we were all done, and everybody got teleported, the flash of bright light, and that was it. And it was like, oh my God, there was a moment of like, where do we go from here? But you know what? It was a tough combat. It was exciting combat. I lost, of course, all my NPCs. Matter of fact, I had a trap go off. This isn't part of the book, but if you look on the Tabletop Simulator map, there is the statues and whatnot, and the eyes shoot out and beam across the portal. And actually, it was an ancient trap devised by the cult long ago to protect the portal. It had been dormant, but because Cricket was in control of the portal at one point and lost control, she inadvertently activated that trap. And funny enough, I didn't know who it was going to hit, who it was going to take out, what it was going to do. And for the most part, 99% of the time, it just hit all my NPCs. So which is probably good, right? It's a good thing that happened. But really, I set a trap, and the trap eventually just sprung on myself. But Cricket and everybody escaped. There's going to be consequences, I think. Cricket's going to change. She's seen a lot. She has felt a lot. And I think her devotion now to wiping out the cult is completely cemented. I don't know what the other players or characters are feeling. And I assume and I think they still want to pursue the cult. But I know Cricket, whether they go with her or not, because of the torture she went under with Resimir, because of the things she saw and felt, she is determined to destroy the cult. She's a fairy with revenge on her shoulders, right? Kind of weird. But anyway, guys, that's it. That's where we're at. It crescendoed on a portal activating, everybody kind of just suddenly disappearing. Jevin actually did join the fight. Too many J's in that almost. But Jevin, he's the dark elf that's been hunting for Lam, but eventually just stopped. He is done. But Resimir asked him, you can see this kind of in the radio drama, I don't know which one it is, maybe the most recent one. You could look in that playlist. And Jevin shows up right at the end of that radio drama and says, hey, the heroes are here, and they're coming for that they're coming for that fairy. So Resimir knew this and kept Jevin as kind of like, ace in the cards. No. Oh man, there's a little thing there. Just kept him in his back pocket. We'll just say that. Kept him in his back pocket. And at the very end, I did have Jevin come out on the battlefield because Resimir was taking some hits, and he finally came out, and he did actually almost take down Storm. Jevin is my assassin in the game, but he can be very deadly. He can be extremely deadly up close. He's good long range, but if you get Jevin really close to you, he's most likely going to tear you a new one. Matter of fact, if you go and listen to the radio drama number 12 or 13, Blades of the Brotherhood, you can see in there that he takes on 5 thieves. And those thieves technically in-game are like level 5 and 6. So Jevin is pretty high up the chain and was able to take out all of those thieves except for 2. He wounded one, and one he got away before they could finish their fight. So he's a pretty formidable enemy. Unfortunately, far more than even Resimir and the rest of the people were. So he's still alive. And he was also teleported at the end because everybody was on that portal. Who knows where we go from here? Who knows what the next step is? And I can tell you this as a DM, I am looking at chapter 7 and 8. 7 is like, I don't care. It's not that big of a deal. I'm only going to take little bits of 7, but I'm really, honestly, we're in chapter 8. We're going to go right into chapter 8. I'm going to take maybe 5% of chapter 7, and the rest is coming from chapter 8. But then again, it really depends on what my characters feel, what the characters really want to do. And because it's been a long time in the swamp, a lot of battles, they are battered, they're running out of strength, and they haven't seen daylight in weeks. This is a lull in the story right now, and I think they needed it. They needed some quiet. They needed a moment to recuperate after all that has happened. And I think that's where we're going to pick up the next time we play, which won't be this Friday, it'll be the next. But basically, guys, if you're running this, I'm skipping chapter 7, I'm going right to chapter 8, and then we're done. We'll be at the end of Horde of the Dragon Queen. So anyway, guys, that's it. Not a lot to say, but Cricket has been freed. The people are out of the swamp, and we're starting fresh and new. I think about 2 weeks from now, because I need to get my head wrapped around the things that have happened, and also I'm writing the next radio drama. So there's a new one coming to set up all the events that are happening in Chapter 8, and then from there, I think when we're done, Rise of Tiamat. I mean, that's if my players still want to, but Rise of Tiamat's the next thing, and we're going to see how that goes. That may be a huge break in between, 4 or 5 months before I start picking up the book again, and writing new radio dramas and starting that whole process all over again. So that's a ways away. Anyway, guys, radio drama coming up, another campaign diary soon, and a bunch of other stuff. My channel is going to explode here in the next week or so. I'm going to have like 16, 17 new videos out of nowhere, and I'll explain more about that later. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for keeping up with us, and I'll see you in the next video.